Oh, which part?
Well, I noticed that your background, right, is in mental health, clinical counseling, and then coaching, and then the social media growth. I presume that maybe you started with the mental health side first.
I did. So my background, just like education wise, I have a bachelor's in psychology and a master's in social work. And I specialize in clinical practice. So that's how I started as far as like education wise.
Okay.
Um, so I've been in the field of mental health for a little over 10 years now.
Okay. Congratulations, man.
Yeah, yeah. So I always loved, learning about the brain, the mind, how things work, how our thoughts work, behavior patterns. And, so I developed a real strong passion for just wanted to know how to help people and how do we derive at certain decisions. And, when we struggle with certain things like anxiety and trauma, depression, how can I help somebody? And really just also before I begin to help, how do these things happen in the first place?
Yeah. So you like
So
looking at those pivotal, like philosophical questions and digging into them.
yeah, yeah. I mean, that's just always been a passion of mine since I was like younger.
Yeah.
How come certain people do certain things? How come this person is more prone to depression than this person or anxiety than this person? So I've always loved that.
Yeah, no, I appreciate you doing that and digging into it. I think sometimes it's those basic questions that can lead us like into a rabbit hole, but being
Hmm.
able to take a step back and then
Yeah.
find some kind of answer for it or some kind of structure to it, it can lead us to, just not feeling as negative or as anxious, if you will.
And I'll also say, Juan, just, being honest, like just going through my passion, like these are questions that I had since I was a little kid. And then when I was in high school, there really wasn't a psychology focus or major. So when I went to college, I kind of delved right into that. Um, yes,
Okay.
questions. Yep.
Okay. Well, we would have got along then as kids. Because, sometimes I find myself doing that too. I'd be like,
Yeah.
why am I thinking this way? And I have a lot of siblings. I'm like, I wonder if they're thinking like this.
Right, right. Just
Yeah.
basic questions. I was always just kind of generally curious about, how come this person chooses this profession and how come this person is in this profession, they make a lot of money. This person does not make any money. This person switches professions every
Hmm.
2 years or 6 months. Just the why. I was always just curious about that.
Yeah. Those are good questions there. How
Yeah.
did you bridge into the area of life coach?
I love personal development. So even probably before psychology, I just love to like work on myself. I love to push myself. And I've always had coaches, even though they weren't necessarily coin coaches, I've had people in my life who've helped me get to where I've been to. So even before, teachers, I've had family members, I've had barbers, I've had spiritual leaders who have served in the role of, being my life coach, even though they didn't have that necessary term.
Yeah.
So when I found out, oh, this is what this is called, this is a life coach, it just made me like, okay, this is what I want to do. And to be honest, man, I was already kind of like helping people in that facet. It just wasn't termed
Yeah.
life coach. But I've always wanted to, push people just like I want to push myself and hold people accountable, help with the discipline, the focus, the consistency. And, I've always been reading books about, self development, self help books. So, how, being able to translate, again, something that's part of my own lifestyle into, making an income and a profession and growing a career out of it, it's been amazing. And it doesn't feel like work because it's something that I would do, whether we were doing this interview or not. Um, I mean, just like right here, some of the books, Steve Harvey,
Hmm.
self help books, Don't Sweat the Small Stuff. Like these are things that are just part of my daily routine.
Yeah. Let
Yeah.
me ask you a question as far as that structure for a life coach. Did you take like the traditional academia structure, go and got your certification, or did you utilize, your mental health training to then leverage that into I can fit this role as well?
Both. I think that So three different aspects stand out for me. One, having the clinical background, from psychology, clinical social work, that helped tremendously. Just like knowing people, because as a life coach, I'm still helping people solve their problems.
Yeah.
The addition, was great about my experience is that sometimes people's problems spill over outside the realm of life coaching. And when that happens, I'm trained to either, help them in a therapeutic manner or make a necessary referral to someone who can help them. So
Yeah.
I think before you can be a coach, one, you need to have experience, but also have the education too. So I can say, okay, look, this is a little bit outside of, a life coaching scope. Um, Secondly, I took a training with a couple of psychologists, Dr. Freeman and Dr. Smith in Cleveland, the Cleveland Center for Cognitive Therapy. And during that training, it really helped me focus on not just the therapy side, but goal setting.
Okay.
Being able to set goals, whether or not, you want to lose weight, whether you want to work on your anxiety, whether you want to save more money, make more money, but being very intentional about how do you set these goals? How do you get clear on what the goal is? Sometimes we say we want something, but that's really not what we want. So the professor had us, or instructor had us kind of like set our own small goals, right? Just for practice so we can learn how to do this. My goal was to stop eating cookies. So when she challenged me on it, she said, okay, Jason, you want to stop eating cookies, then what? It was no, I wanted a six pack. So even though I was saying I didn't want to eat cookies, the real thing was I wanted, a different physical makeup.
Yeah.
So just that little tweak lets me know that, hey, sometimes the stuff that we say we want, it's not what we really want. Maybe you don't want to quit your job, but you want more time with your family and friends. So having that type of training to identify how do you set these goals has helped tremendously when it comes to being a life coach. And then lastly, I did pick up an actual certification from the Playbook Coaching and Speaking Program, which helped me, again, even further my knowledge and expertise, but also have an actual certification for what I'm doing.
Okay. Yeah, I was curious about that. A lot of the audience here in the Counselor's Journey to Private Practice are mental health professionals, psychologists, psychotherapists, clinicians. And, there's always that dance, between the mental health field, engaging in psychotherapy, or also known as counseling, or, becoming a life coach. And it still seems, as far as like my reading, that the life coach is up and coming, if you will. And there's a gray line as far as, do you need a certification? Or can you utilize your clinical background? Just make sure that you're doing exactly what you do, Jason, where it's, if we need a referral, let's do that. Let's get a referral.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. The thing is, people want results. The
Yeah.
bottom line, like, so I have a trainer, right? A personal trainer you were talking about. I know he's been to school and I know he has tons of certifications. Have I asked him about those qualifications? No, I haven't, because I've known him since high school, so 20 years. And he was like the fastest guy in high school. He was always fit. He went on to do, great things. And when I'm working with him, he was able to get me from like 16% body fat to like 9% at one time.
Mm.
So those results were they were evident.
Yeah.
When you're working with somebody as a life coach, people may not always ask you, and even as a therapist, like in my early years, people will say, okay, where'd you go to school? But beyond that, they want to know, can you help them?
Yeah.
And it's on me to make sure I maintain proper ethics and, again, make the necessary referrals. But it's always, what can you do and how can you help?
Yeah.
And people will know if you can't help them, and like, not necessarily saying it's overnight, but if the things that you're talking about and the activities you're giving them, the sessions, if they're not growing and changing in the way they want to, certification or not, you're not helping anybody.
Yeah. No, you're absolutely right. I think that and it's probably what took place more like during academia or school. You look into all these modalities like CBT, EMDR, But I
Mm-hmm.
think, just as people, I
Right.
work with couples, couples not sitting up at 3 a.m. going, you know what, my relationship is at a breaking point. I need some EMDR, or I need some of
Right.
that good old CBT. They're like, no, I can't stand my husband right now. I want to slap him across the face, but I don't want to do that.
Right.
I need someone
Right.
that can get us from A to B. Right. So
Exactly.
just average Joe. And then, you're absolutely right. Being able to work with people, connect with them, but then show them that we're making some transformational changes here.
Mhm. Yeah, yeah. That's what matters in the long run. I always say like it's half and half. You need 50% rapport, being able to relate and connect,
Mm-hmm.
but then you also need the professional background and the education to go along with it. Having one, like if we can kick it and talk all day, that's not going to be helpful. And if I just give you a bunch of research in different modalities, but we don't connect, that's not
Yeah.
helpful either. So you have to have that good mix.
Yeah, no, you're right. You're right about that. Tell me,
Yeah.
as far as like your growth, I've been stalking you, if you will, in a professional, ethical manner, of course. But I've been seeing that you've been doing a lot of live videos on Instagram, and I'm
Hmm.
always like, yeah, go him. Like, put himself out there. And it's beautiful too because it's a free, like, pro bono advice. It's supportive. You're helping people make strides and make moves.
Hmm.
How's that going for you? And then what's the back end work that you do?
Oh man. So one, I appreciate the support, and I'll say that I love the Instagram platform. It's easy to use. I know I'm streaming up here on Facebook now, but Instagram is easy, it's fun, it's engaging, it's interactive, it's a cool platform in general. And then meeting people, meeting different therapists, different coaches, watching their growth, and
Mm,
then us being able to have free flowing, engaging, fun conversations, answering people's questions, giving some free advice on different problems. I enjoyed that. Just like, us having this dialogue here. I was more than happy to do this. On the back end, it's a lot of networking. It's a lot of connections. It's a lot of following up. Hey, does this time work for you? Does it not? Making sure that we're a good fit, because everybody that I collaborate with or could potentially collab with may not be a good fit. Like
yeah.
my audience and their audience may not connect. But I do enjoy it. I think it gives a lot of flavor. As you said, you specialize with couples. So, having somebody that we can kind of complement each other, right?
Yeah.
And I think our audience loves that. They love seeing diversity. They like to see, they don't always want to just hear me.
Yeah.
Just like if I'm following somebody, I don't always want to just hear
Mm,
them.
yeah.
And it takes a certain level of professionalism to show up. Like I said, with us having this interview today, I was still, even though we had not spoken, I was still prepared and ready to go.
Mm-hmm.
And that's, I think, what separates, us from certain individuals, the level of professionalism, the fact that we're doing this because we love doing it,
Yeah.
and then people get the benefit of, our knowledge that we've worked and, studied years for. They can take 30, 45 minutes out of their day and absorb all that free info.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How do you prep for some of the videos that you do? Like if you're doing an anxiety one or motivation?
Um, so different times I prepped in different ways. So there's been some times where I've just like, hey, I got something on my heart. Let's put on the camera. Let's go. Other times I may ask people for questions. Hey, what do y'all want to hear? What are some things that you want to know about? I found that, I've been live consistently over the past little bit over a year, same time, Tuesdays, 9 p.m. Eastern. And what I found is some topics people aren't always going to be willing to ask questions and engage about. They'll listen, but if we're talking about trauma, divorce, self-esteem issues, when you type that question or you come on live with me, you have to put yourself out there.
Yeah.
So what I found out is that, hey, let me solicit questions beforehand too. So that way, if Juan has a question, Juan doesn't have to type it in here and everybody knows, oh, this is Juan who asked this question.
Yeah.
You send it to me beforehand and I'll write that down, and then I'll still answer it so everybody can hear it, but everybody doesn't have to know that Juan asked the question.
I like that. Yeah. That way
Yeah.
you're not only protecting me, but you know, it's a vulnerable position to put me in, but you're still giving me that feedback, that help I'm looking for.
Yes. And then there's also times where I do have outlines where I know if I'm talking about anxiety, for instance, I want to cover 5 different aspects. So I don't necessarily have a script because I want it to be natural.
Yeah.
That's the whole thing about, live is natural, is easy. Well, I won't say it's easy, but it is natural. And I
Yeah.
think the more practice that you get with it, the better that you'll be able to answer the questions, because it's not like us as trained clinicians can't answer the questions. But when people are asking you questions on the spot and you
Yeah.
have to give an answer like pretty quickly, um, you either know it or you don't, or you can
Mhm.
articulate it or you can't. And that's why I like to do this, because it gives people the sense of saying, hey, Jason's real. There's some questions that I don't know and I won't have the answers to, but I'll get it back to you.
Yep.
And, we can just kind of build that connection and rapport.
Yeah. I think that realness goes a long way. And it shows that you're a helper too. You know, I go
Oh,
visit
yeah.
my doctor and I'll throw some shit out there. And they're like, look, man, I don't know, but let me go, let me go check the computer real quick. But I
Right.
appreciate that because it's authentic, it's genuine. And just like you said, you know, once you get to work with people, I'll get patients, clients that would say, hey,
Mhm.
you know, I like that, you know, I can tell who you are. You know,
Right.
you're not a blank slate, if you will.
Yeah, letting yourself come out, letting your personality show. And I'm generally, I'm a laid back person. So I'm not gonna come on live like, super hype, super, crunk.
Yeah.
But I'm gonna be me.
Yeah.
And that's when people can kind of appreciate that. Like, just be yourself, because when you try to be somebody who you're not, now you starting to put in work. Now you're working on top of work.
Yeah.
And that's no fun. You burn out super quick.
That's a good point you share there. I was at times I'll do consultations. I always have a hard time pronouncing that, probably the Spanish in me.
Yeah.
And I'll share that with different clinicians. You know, whenever you're doing live, when you're putting yourself out there, work to be you. But then there's always like this comment of, well, what about being professional and making sure that I have everything right? How did
Yeah.
you push past that, Jason?
Um, Man, so for instance, like the live aspect, I used to want things to be right. I'm not even gonna
Yeah.
lie to you. I didn't want, I wanted the setting to be right. I wanted the connection to be good. It doesn't always happen. Like sometimes my dog will be barking.
Yeah.
Um, Sometimes my battery may be low. I mean, that's kind of rare, but that'll happen. Or the connection will be poor and I have to start it back up. It is what it is. And I think just kind of like doing it, letting it happen. I remember one time, I was doing a series on trusting yourself. I don't know if you were following me at that time, where I was going live with had different guests coming on each day. And I didn't have my iPhone. I like the iPhone. Now I have my Android. And I had too much videos. It was too much on the phone. Like, so when I went live, the phone just kind of like shut down. It
Mm.
was just too much. It shut down. So I went live for like 5 minutes, right, with Dr. Ebony. So unbeknownst to all the viewers, I restarted the live. We went live on Instagram, but in the background, we had went live on Facebook for about 3 minutes before my phone shut down. So throughout the whole entire live, because my phone had some type of glitch, I'm hearing our backs, our little brief convo in the
Yeah.
background. So I'm talking to her. She can't hear me, and of course the audience couldn't hear. But the whole 50 minutes to an hour, I'm having to listen to another conversation. So that was tricky, but it was like, man, you got to do it, because I didn't want to keep restarting the live. But that was that
Yeah.
was that was interesting,
That was
fun time.
good, man. That's a good vulnerable moment.
Yeah, it was just like it was frustrating though, because I was concentrating to what she was saying while also hearing a whole another conversation over and over and over.
Yeah.
Yep.
I think that's good. You know, hearing that, I think sometimes that helps us know that we don't have to have all our ducks in a row to get started. You know,
Oh,
we grow and learn, and 5 years from now, we'll be more effective. And then 5 years from then, we'll be more effective.
yeah. My first live was like 30 seconds to a minute. I was like, hey, what's going
Yeah.
on? All right, nobody's here. See ya.
Yeah.
It was like that. And then I remember my first live, I collaborated with somebody, and I think my wife and I were going to Charlotte maybe, and we had not ran into traffic or something, so we didn't get to the hotel to set up. So literally, we pulled over to like a dollar store parking lot. I had okay service because I'm in like it was in like a rural area, and we just did the live from there, and it
Yeah.
was still good. Like the fact is, teaching moment. It's alive. It's not a planned production, or sometimes it is, sometimes it's not. But the content and the information that I share, being in the car, was no different than if I would have been at the hotel room.
Yeah.
Is no different. As long as I have good connection, that's most important. I try to have good lighting, but the most important thing that I've noticed from different professionals that I've watched is that you want to give the information.
Mm-hmm.
Like, people always don't care if you're in the airport. People don't care if you're outside in your backyard. Are you answering the questions and giving them the content that they are coming to your page or platform for? If you do that, the rest is good.
Yeah. You're absolutely right. Content, right?
I mean, take for instance the NBA and the NFL. We're watching these games. Nobody's in the stands,
Mm-mm.
but we're watching the TV the same way we would like if it was last year or if it was packed out.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I applaud them for doing that. So as long as they show up and give us what we need, which is competitive sports, we're watching it.
Mm. You started this conversation with goals. You're sharing how you went to that center, and then it focused on, you had the goal of cookies.
Oh yeah,
Tell me,
yeah.
what do the next 1 to 5 years look like for you as far as growth and the goals you have for yourself outlined?
One, continuing to grow my social media presence, getting the message out to more people, but also expanding my online coaching program. So I don't talk about that as much. People know I see people one-on-one, but I also have a group coaching format that I'm going to expand as well. Another goal is a podcast. Having a setup like yourself. I love the mic and
Yeah,
everything, but also, being able to reach more people, but in a different area.
I like those. Tell me about the group coaching. I got questions on all of them.
Yeah,
So what does that group coaching look like?
yeah. So we meet weekly, so Wednesdays for about an hour and a half, 7 to 8:30, and we discuss various topics. So, like, goal setting, that's one. How to set goals, how to assess yourself on where you're at with your goals, how to set boundaries in relationships and also professional boundaries. So each week there's different topics. So
Okay.
usually we start off with like an intro, seeing how everybody's doing.
Yeah.
I'll check in on like the homework because I'm always big on like some progress outside of what we do, just kind of talking. And then it's sort of structured. I'll kind of go over the topic of that week, and then the last 30 minutes is just a free flowing Q&A.
Okay.
It's really it's one of the highlights of my week. I do enjoy the group members. We kind of dive into things because it's more intimate and personal than just me being here on Facebook or IG.
Yeah.
And then the group gets a chance to support each other, big up each other, whether they're getting married, having babies, starting businesses, um, changing jobs. I mean, so it's a supportive community.
Okay. I like that. Yeah. And are you doing that right now with COVID, virtually, face to face?
Oh yeah, it's virtual because people
Okay.
are from all over. Texas, Florida,
Oh, nice. Good
New York.
audience.
Yeah, so a lot of people that I work with are like all over the country. So sometimes, and it's made me sharper to know different time zones too.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know? Yeah, because before, it's like everything was Eastern, but no, we got Pacific, Central, all of that.
Yeah. I've been there. I had a couple of funny stories on being off in those time zones.
Yeah, and even I've worked with people outside of the country too. When that gets real tricky, because I'm like, okay, 5 p.m. your time, it's 1 p.m. It's
Yeah.
real hectic.
Well, cool, man. I mean, I'm happy for you. I'm excited to see what you continue to do. And I love that, you know, you get on there and you're helping people with, you know, almost like no strings attached. You know, just dive
Yeah.
in. You got some free time. Check Jason out.
Mhm.
Everyone out here that's listening, how can they connect with you?
Uh, well, couple ways. One, Instagram and Facebook at J Phillips MSW, JPHILLIPS MSW, and then my website pnpcoach.com. That's for peace and prosperity, but it's just the letters pnpcoach.com.
Okay,
One
perfect.
other goal too is haven't announced it yet, but I've just been I'm honored to be an advisory team member on the North Carolina Raleigh Capitals men's professional basketball team. So I'm the director of player professional development.
Oh man,
Yeah.
congratulations.
So so I'm excited because basketball is a passion for me. So to be able to be a part of an organization, a professional organization in that
Yeah.
platform and that that space, oh yeah, I'm excited about that.
Well, good. Yeah, that speaks volume for, you know, the work that you're doing, the work that you've done, and, you know, where life will continue to take you.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Hey, Juan, I appreciate this conversation, bro. It's fun.
Yeah, I appreciate it too. I hope that you continue to do well.
Yeah, and let's do this again too, man. Seriously.